can you stock up on food and fill your pantry when what I call the beginning of the end is starting? Well, hello everybody. This is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and today we are finally having some beautiful weather. You are new to our channel. My husband Jim and I moved to West Virginia about a year and a half ago. And even though we are homesteaders, both Jim and I work full-time outside the home. In fact, I am also a teacher. I do a lot of videos on food storage and filling up your pantry. In fact, many of those videos are on vacuum sealing, and that is what we're going to talk about today. So join us today as we go into my pantry and learn all about vacuum sealing. All right, everybody, we are in my pantry, and I just want to tell you I am so blessed to have this pantry. This is a room, and I have not had a pantry like this in 40 years. This pantry is 12 foot by 10 foot, and it is lined with shelves. But when I first got married, all I had was a tiny little crawl space under the stairway. And you know what? It didn't stop me from learning how to can and dehydrate and vacuum seal foods. All right, let's jump into today's topic, and it might be a little scary. It's pretty deep. It's called the beginning of the end. And it's actually a term that my pastor used this morning, and I quickly wrote it down because I was like, that is what I'm talking about. Okay, so the end of what? Well, to me, I think we are facing the beginning of losing our freedoms, our rights, our choices, and lastly, our speech. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you start looking at what's going on in the United States. Because once you do, your eyes will be opened and you too will be worried about what the future holds for our children. But what in the world am I supposed to do about all of that? I'm just a wife and a mom, and I'm looking for ways to feed my family. That's exactly where I come in. My goal is to teach others how to preserve food and to stock up for times when food is either hard to find or too expensive to afford. Now, you can buy a freezer like this. In fact, that's what I always use to film on. But you really don't need a lot of instruction on how to freeze items. You can also purchase one of these digital pressure canners. That will enable you to can just about anything. But the reality is, by the time you got all the supplies, we're talking $500, $600, and there is a learning curve. Or maybe you're interested in freeze drying. Well, I would love to freeze dry, but I don't know the $3,000 it's going to cost to get a freeze dryer. But you can start vacuum sealing immediately, spending $25, $40, or $200, depending on what type of vacuum sealer you buy. After that, you're going to need some canning jars, lids, and rings. And I will be honest, most of my canning jars came from the thrift store. And by vacuum sealing, I was able to very quickly fill up my pantry. So I teach vacuum sealing because I think it's the easiest to learn, one of the cheapest ways to get started, and it helps you to preserve a lot of food very quickly. Now, if you're a regular on my channel, you'll know I am not a big fan of this electric mason jar vacuum sealer. Honestly, it's inexpensive, but the main reason is it doesn't have enough suction power. So it may seal your jar initially, but then you'll end up with a false seal later on. But let me tell you the facts. If this is all you can afford, go get it now. This will vacuum seal your food, and it will give you the opportunity to spend your money on the food you are sealing instead of $200 on a vacuum sealer. But if you are looking for an investment, then I have to tell you that I love my food saver. It is FM5200. It was about $200, and I've had it for 11 or 12 years. Not only does it vacuum seal in jars, but it also vacuum seals bags, and that means there's an opportunity to seal my things like berries, meats, and other things that I am going to freeze. Just this week, a viewer asked me, why do you vacuum seal? What are the advantages? Let me go over them real quickly before I show you how to vacuum seal your items. Vacuum sealing removes the air from your jar. And what that means is without air, your product is going to last longer. and that means it will extend the best by date of all your foods. The second benefit to vacuum sealing is it keeps out all the critters, whether we are talking insects or mice and rodents. They are not going to be able to get into a jar that is sealed without air. And lastly, it saves money. When I find a quick sale on items, I can fill up that cart, take them home, and vacuum seal them because I know they will store longer. Let's go over the items you need to vacuum seal. First and foremost, you're going to need a vacuum sealer. And if it's an electric one like this, you're going to need the jar sealers themselves. They come in a 2-pack, and unfortunately, it is a separate purchase. When I purchased these, they were $13.99 on Amazon for both of them. You're going to need some canning jars, and they come in all different sizes, from tiny little half or quarter pint all the way up to half gallon. The size that I typically use is in fact the half gallon. The only problem with that is I can't find them in thrift stores. People are holding on to them more. So this one I bought in a case at Walmart.com, and they were $16.44 for 6 of them. If you are buying a case of them, the good news is they always come with the rings and the flats or the lids, so you will not have to buy them. Everything you need is right there. Another item that I use a lot is a wide mouth canning funnel. It is not a necessary purchase, but it's something that helps you to get everything in your jar without getting it all over your counter. Today I'm going to vacuum seal cereal, and as you can see, I typically mix up my own from various different boxes of cereal. Many of my viewers say, oh goodness, Deb, you are vacuum sealing raisins. You can't do that. These are not raisins. These are dried blueberries, but let me pass on that word of caution. Do not vacuum seal raisins. They have too high of a moisture content in them. I like to mix up my own cereal and lots of different ingredients. And again, people say, why do you do that? Well, I love granola cereal. Have you ever looked at the calories? 230 calories for every half cup. Oh my goodness. I've never eaten a half cup of cereal. I probably eat more like a cup and a half. So think about that a minute. A cup and a half of cereal is half of my calorie count for the day. Nope, that's not going to work. I stir in organic Cheerios, which has far less calories per cup, and that way I can eat more cereal. But do you have to mix your cereal before you vacuum seal it? Absolutely not. In fact, Jim, he doesn't like his cereal mixed at all, so I do jars just for him. All right, let's go over the steps with how to vacuum seal. The very first thing you're going to do is wash your jars in hot soapy water and completely dry them. I try to do that the day before so that I know they are completely dry. Next, you're going to fill your jars. So, do you think this jar is filled? Let's see. The trick to vacuum sealing is to make sure you get all the air out that you can. And to do that, I'm going to start shaking this back and forth and thumping it up and down. Look what happened. I have gained another 4 inches that I can put cereal in my jar. Okay, my jar is actually filled this time. I continued to add more, shake it on down until now it's level about, a half inch down. Next step is to put a flat on, and I want you to notice that it has writing on there. That's because you can reuse these flats or lids over and over again for vacuum sealing. As long as they seal, they are fine. I'm going to wipe the top of this with my clean hand and then place the lid on top. Since this is a wide mouth jar, I'm going to put the wide mouth jar sealer on top. And you want to push down hard to make sure it's on there good. Next, I push down the port which connects it to my vacuum sealer. I turn on the power and I push accessory. It will shut off when finished. And some people are able to know when it's almost done by the sound. It gets higher and higher pitched. You're going to pull off the port and then remove the jar sealer. It's really important that you check to make sure this jar is sealed. First, the center is going to be sunk in. But then with your fingertips or even harder, just pull and see if you can get this lid off. If it is completely sealed, you cannot pull the lid off with your fingertips. This next step is completely up to you. This lid is saying organic pumpkin seeds. Obviously, this is cereal, but if I want to remove it, all I need to do is use my magic eraser, and this marker will come right off. This is one of those tough questions about how long will it stay in storage. Now, this one's saying May 6, 2025, so I'm automatically going to write May 6, 2026. But that does not mean that it's going to expire in 2026. That is just a suggested time to use it. Everything depends on how you store it. You want to store this in complete dark in a temperature-controlled room that is cool. So in all reality, this jar of cereal could last up to 10 years, no problem. And lastly, you want to add a ring. And yes, I know you don't put rings on canned goods, but it's a choice that is up to you. Since it is personal preference, I do store the rings on my vacuum sealed foods for 3 main reasons. First off, if this jar gets bumped, that lid is not going to pop off and eventually ruin the food that's in the jar. Secondly, I have bins and bins of rings. By storing them on the jars, it just makes it so much easier. And lastly, that little bit of pressure is going to help maintain a seal on my jar. All right, I'm going to seal up 2 more jars and be right back with you. And in just a few minutes, I was able to vacuum seal 1 gallon and 1 quart of cereal. Times are a little bit scary now, and I think all of us are concerned with how we are going to feed our family if the costs continue to rise. I don't want you to be discouraged. Keep working on your pantries. Keep stocking up. Every little bit counts. Even this cereal is going to give us a couple more weeks of food. And even if this is the beginning of the end, it is not the end. We have time. Go out today. Go out tomorrow. Order the things you need off Amazon. But I beg you, please, please start stocking up your pantry. And join us here every Sunday evening as we talk about how to preserve foods. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye.